Good evening. This is Dundee Township Supervisor Patricia Glees. I am hosting the Dundee Township Cemetery Board meeting. Today is Thursday, June 25th, 2020. The time is 6:06, and I will be handing this meeting over to the Cemetery Board Secretary. This meeting is being recorded. Mr. Black, please take it away.
All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Take the roll call. The physically present at the 611 address, I believe the only one is myself. And then attending remotely, Supervisor Glees.
Here.
Trustee Gullickson.
Here.
Trustee Bartelt.
Here.
And Cemetery Manager Rakow.
Here.
Okay. Quorum is present. Item number 3, public comments. I don't believe there are any other members of the public online, so we will move on from that.
Bob, before you do that, once again, this is Dundee Township Supervisor Trish Glees. A posting of our agenda was placed in public. It has been in public for 48 hours, along, not only on our building door, but also on our website.
Correct. Okay, then the next item of business, since we have not had a meeting for a while, is to approve the minutes from the October 8th, 2018 meeting.
2019 or
2019, I'm sorry, 19. 10/8/19. So those were distributed. Any comments or questions on that? Otherwise, need a
I'll move they be approved. This is Dave Bartelt.
Okay.
Ken Gullickson, second.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, being none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Oh, Bob, I'm sorry, you need to do a voice vote.
Just to be a roll call, I'm sorry. Trustee Bartelt,
Aye.
Trustee Gullickson,
Aye.
okay. Motion carried, 2 votes to 0. We'll move on to the open issues under old business. The first is the our favorite thing, the Columbaria Garden. I'm going to actually defer this until we get down to new business, because there's more to cover there on the land issue and some other questions there. So we'll move that to new business. Item B is the burial and lot sales update. Do you want me to start with that, Mark, or do you have?
Yeah, go ahead, because I don't have any current numbers as far as sales.
Okay.
I got burials year to date is all I have.
Yeah, I ran the burial for the comparable period, which matches our fiscal year. So from March 1st of this year until today's date, a year ago, we had 36 total burials. And this year, for that same period, we had 47 burials. The biggest difference is when I look at the fiscal numbers, going back to last June for the first 3 months of the fiscal year, we had only $13,825 in lot sales. For the same time period for these 3 months in 2020, we've had $48,450 in lot sales. And in grave opening fees, last year was $17,450, and this year we're at $30,100. So the impact of the lot sales, especially, we've had a lot of non-resident individuals coming to us from Elgin and Hoffman Estates, Lake in the Hills. So they are paying the full rate, not the rate. And then the burials, of course, a lot of Saturdays and some other things in there working around the COVID situation. So revenues are certainly well ahead of last year, well ahead of budget. Mark, anything?
No, I'll just update you as far as I'm not on a fiscal, I'm running as far as the calendar year. Last year to date, we had 49 total burials. This year to date, we've had 80. So we're a 63% increase since same period last year, January 1st till June 25th. As far as Columbaria sales, we've had two niche sales and one ossuarium sale so far this year to date. And I didn't break down, I did break down. Just to give you an idea, as far as total burials, we've had 59 full-size burials this year, 15 cremations, 2 columbarium interments, and 4 baby burials for a total of 80. That's all I have as far as burial info.
Yeah, I think it also is worth noting at this point, the cemetery staff, along with Supervisor Glees, has had a fair share of issues, I'll use that term, dealing with the burials and trying to comply with the governor's orders on the COVID-19. There have been issues with attempting to limit the number of people attending funerals. Some of the funeral directors have been very good at cooperating. A couple of them have not. And it's just been an ongoing issue, hopefully, with the opening, relaxing of the meeting number to 50, which begins tomorrow. That should ease up on a number.
Sorry about that.
Okay. Any other comments on that, Trish, from you or Mark?
Yeah, I'll update. Mark, you can jump in there. As Bob was alluding to, we have had issues since the March. We early on, after the first issue, sent out letters from me to the directors, and every family member got a letter explaining the what the executive order meant and how this would work. We did have quite a few issues. We then started to get the directors on board to have them understand that this was their job, not our job, of policing, reminding people, 10 people. It seemed to be going better and better. Tomorrow we go to 50 people. And what I did tell the staff, and the staff is still being reminded, that if the crowds appear to get out of hand, they are to back up 20 to 30 feet. My responsibility is to protect our staff, not necessarily the people who are attending the funeral. I know that's hard to hear. It's hard to say, but our staff comes first. The other thing that I will tell you is that, and I've had conversations with the local police chief. The police, we have had an uptick in alcohol drinking, etc. And at first they were afraid to stop them from doing it. On advice of our legal staff, I told them exactly what I wanted to be done, is that, and if during the workday, Mark and the staff, know to call me, and I will prosecute. Between dusk and dawn, should they find anybody in the cemetery at any time, they are to immediately remove them for trespassing. If they do not want to be removed for trespassing, or they are drinking, it is an immediate call to me, and I will prosecute, and they will go to jail. And so we are now all on board with that. And since doing that, I know the police have shagged quite a few young people away without much incident. Mark, if you want to add anything?
No, that's, yeah, as far as the numbers starting tomorrow, what you and I discussed briefly was that we can now have groups of up to 10, social distance apart. Does that include a total of 50 people at the funeral?
Well, so the
Where
way
I'm a little confused is from the standpoint of reading, nothing has been specific as far as what you can read in the newspaper or online. They talk about, inside groups of 10 social distance apart if the square footage allows. Well,
Right.
we basically have unlimited square footage.
Right.
And our typical funeral is probably maybe 50 to 75 people to begin with. I just need to understand if we're going to allow more than 5 groups of 10 people social distance.
So the plan is, it is going to be immediate family, up to 10 people at the gravesite.
Which we have been doing.
Right. I do not want to get into putting dots on the ground or anything like that to show them what social distancing is. They've got to know what it is. They do have to have a mask on. That's the other requirement. And then I will let groups of people or households, if they're in the same household, they can be grouped together as long as they are more than 10 or 20 feet from the gravesite, so that we're not, everybody has to stay within 6 feet of each other. But if they're groups, if we group them 10 feet apart, I feel comfortable with that.
What if they don't have masks?
They got to stay in their car. That has not changed.
Okay.
Yeah, that has not changed. If there is no mask, there is no exiting from the car.
So we can't treat it like some of the signs you see in stores that say if you don't have a mask, they don't have the right to ask you. They assume you have a medical condition.
So therein lies a little rub of HIPAA. That is correct. If they do not have a mask, and all I'm expecting, and I will be there for these first couple of them, will be, do you have a mask? And if they have a medical condition, they are going to say, I have a medical condition. And then that's fine. If they say, no, I don't believe in them or anything, we will then ask them to please go back to their car. We can deny them access, just like a store can.
Okay, did you answer the 50 question? Is the maximum of 50 at a funeral then?
That is correct. There can only be 50 people at the event, on the ground.
Are we gonna let them stay in the car?
Not at the gravesite. You can't have 50 people at the gravesite.
Correct. But
Okay.
additional people, can they stay at their car?
Yeah. Yes, additional people can stay by their cars as long as, we're going to have to be a little bit of traffic cops again with getting everybody situated far enough apart in their family, either their household or their 10 group people.
Okay. Yeah, the only other thing that I was, not that it's factual, but one of the cemetery or one of the funeral directors told me we were the only cemetery left that was doing any numbers. This is before the 50, so I don't know how much
That's
factor.
fine. You know
But
what? I'll be
we'll
the
still
last.
We'll still continue with our, what we discussed, our 50 maximum,
Right.
10 at the gravesite, which we've been doing since March.
And
The
for
best of our
Dave,
ability.
yeah, so Dave and Ken, just to give you guys, obviously you're hearing Mark and I have this conversation. I want to remind everybody that we are a government-funded cemetery. What that means is tax dollars from our electors pay a portion of the cemetery. Therefore, as a government-sponsored or a government-funded cemetery, we will follow the guidelines and the executive orders of the governor of the state of Illinois to the letter. I will not vary in any way, shape, or form. That's it.
Okay.
Okay, Ken
Ken?
here, in terms of the staff, when you say they have to stay in the car, if they don't have a mask on, we're policing the use of the mask. There's been numerous instances around the country of people becoming upset, to put it in mildly, about having and refusing to put a mask on, and then you get into a shoving match, verbal shoving match at a funeral. That's putting our staff in a very difficult situation. What do we have any recourse, or do we have any backup plan in case if somebody just flat out says, I'm not wearing that effing mask, I'm going to this funeral, it's my uncle or whoever, and I'm gonna, and you can't stop me. What does the staff do?
So we are going to stay with the same plan, and that will be, we will let them, we will let them be at the funeral without a mask. We will back up 20 to 30 feet. We will completely disengage until the funeral director puts the casket in the ground. At which point we have been telling the funeral directors it is their responsibility to get the people out of the cemetery. If we get into any more, and Ken, I will tell you, I have been spit on. I have been spit on. I have been, beer has been thrown at me. I have been sworn at. We will call the police. That is our recourse.
Okay.
And the staff, it seems right now to have calmed down.
Yeah, from the very beginning, to cut you off, this is Mark.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Yeah, it's much better. And with the numbers increasing, I think it's going to take a lot of pressure off. And like I say, I mean, 50 is quite a few people to begin with. Some of our other funerals have larger, but I think it'll be manageable. Let's hope.
I hope so. I think so.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Nothing else on that. Just briefly go back. We did mention previously kind of the revenue side of the financial report that you have in front of you for June. Expense-wise, everything is tracking quite well. We have a few of the one-time expenditures like the risk management contribution, which is our insurance payment for liability and so forth, and some of the unemployment, which is very heavy in the first quarter and so forth. But other than that, everything else is tracking well, and no real problem areas at this point. Any questions?
Nope.
Okay, then I don't really have anything on the berm discussion or the extra dirt at this time. I don't know if Mark's got anything or,
No, nothing new. I can't remember why. I don't think last fall, our last official meeting in October, we still had some issues. It still hasn't gone away, but since that time, we've made the berm drivable. So we're actually driving the dump truck on top of the berm and dumping from one end to the other. And then Anthony goes up occasionally and levels it off. We're at the point now where we have to decide what we're going to do. We'll work on that. We're not going to resolve it this evening, obviously, but we're at the point where we're still following our lot line pretty close as far as straight. Now we have to determine if we're going to go around the lake or pond or whatever you want to call it, as my predecessor started to do, which is about half the height, or come up with a plan B, which I don't have one yet. Might be hauling, do a temporary staging area and haul it off the premise when we can't handle anymore. But with this COVID this spring, with the wet weather we had, and then we jumped right into mowing, that's kind of secondary right now. But as things slow down, we'll have to get serious about the long range berm or extra dirt disposal. That's all I got on that.
Ken here. So all of the additional internments that we've had this spring has not caused any undue stress on disposal of dirt, excess dirt, or?
No, I mean, it actually, it's, I mean, we haven't, well, like I say, with 63% increase in burials. So that obviously was probably about 40 extra loads of dirt that we wouldn't have had at this time. But if it slows down and gets back to normal, we should be good the rest of the summer, hopefully.
Okay. On the negative side, if it doesn't slow down and COVID,
we can make it wider. I mean, toward our side, we don't want any more to spill on the Palumbo side. I think last October was when they cut into our hill. I don't know if that was before or after our October meeting. Well, since that time, he's still actually, it's a work in progress. They're still building what they cut out. Basically, they came along the lot line and created a vertical cliff. And then, of course, we started eroding into his property. Well, since that time, he has brought in, I don't know how many loads of material, and he's building it back up and tapering it back down to his property, which is pretty much what we had originally. So I don't know if there was miscommunication on their part. They just cut the hill off, but they found out what was happening. And I don't know if Trish, have you ever got involved with that, or if he realized what he did and it corrected itself? But they're making it right.
Yeah, our last conversation with Mr. Palumbo and his partner, or the gentleman who works for him, they realized what happened and they were trying to shore it up as fast as possible.
Yeah. So they're putting it back, so that part of it's good. And the only other thing we could do too is if we had to come to the south with the berm, that's the other possibility. If we get in, we have to determine what we're going to do with that pond or that lake or retention, whatever you want to call it. We were going to try to make it part of a visual part of the columbarium project, but I don't have an answer or suggestion at this point. One of those things that we have to physically, I think, get out there again and take a look and see if what you want to save and what you don't.
I thought we had some environmental restrictions on what we could do with that.
The Yeah, the biggest thing we can't do is we can't impede the natural flow of water, which runs towards our pond, which is the original topography of that whole area. So I was concerned that he was forcing more runoff to us, but according to talking to the village engineer, it's a natural spillage area, and it has to go that way when it really rains and the pond or retention overflows. It goes into the center of our prairie, but that's been there for buku years, and it'll continue. And it percolates. The water goes away real fast once it gets in there. I mean, it might stay for 12 to 24 hours, and it's gone. We're back to normal. So as long as we don't block it off, which we don't have any intention, we'd have to go an awfully long way to block it off. So I think we're okay for quite a while.
Okay.
Okay. All right, then I guess we move on to new business. And the first topic was coming back to the Columbaria Garden. And what we, at least from what I understand, we had, it turns out, I think, really misinformation or were missold. We signed up for the project. We were operating under the impression, at least those of us that aren't open space gurus, that the outer ring of enhanced prairie was going to be put in with plants that once you put them in and they took root, so to speak, that the prairie would be pretty much self-maintaining, that you wouldn't have to water it, really minimal herbiciding and minimal care. What we've discovered time 3 years into it is that that's not really true. The plants that were put in the outer ring need an enhanced level of attention. There's an extreme amount of weeding that has to go on. The plants do need attention in terms of herbiciding, other things which our current staff really doesn't have the skill set for in aspects. And also it's an extra expense to maintain this entire ring, because we're not going to probably approach the eastern side of the ring anytime in our lifetime for sure, and perhaps for another 30, 40 years before Columbaria might be placed in that area. So what we did this year, if you haven't been out there to see it, is our open space coordinator slash office admin person picked up a number of annuals like geraniums, some other plants, to add color are in the planters and also in the portion of the enhanced ring, if you will, right adjacent to the current columbaria. The thought is at some point that it might be in our best interest, like this fall, to just bite the bullet and mow down whatever is in the back half of this ring, because they don't look very good. And at some point, turn that back into seed with lawn grass, so that the back half of the ring can just simply be mowed as one patch instead of trying to maintain the prairie look there in the back. And then we would continue to, on an annual basis, provide plants such as geraniums, lavender, other things in the front part of the ring to try to enhance the beauty of the ring and perhaps try to get some flowering shrubs or trees in there as funds allow to, again, enhance the coloration and the beauty in that area.
I guess I'll start with a comment or question. Before we, I guess before we tear this out, once we tear it out, we can never put it back, obviously. A couple things as far as tearing this out, it's not just a matter of tearing out or mowing the plants. There's steel edging hundreds and hundreds of feet that are in the inside and the outside edges of that was supposed to be the enhanced prairie garden. That all has to come out, which it's removable, time consuming, waste of money, unfortunately. And as far as preparing that, the soil is so poor, it really should be dug out and have new black dirt brought in and probably graded professionally. We don't have the equipment to grade that. Or the other initial thought was, just mow it, but I don't think that's going to be the answer. It's going to look worse than it does right now. I was kind of hoping that maybe we just wait this summer, see what it looks like. Kirby from Open Space was commenting on some of the plants that were starting to, I don't know, I don't want to use the word thrive, but that were coming in, he thought pretty good, but there's also a lot of thistle and invasive stuff in there that we don't have the expertise or knowledge or chemicals to control it. I just wanted, the only option or suggestion might be is to get a price from someone to maintain that, so we don't get involved with employees that is expense as far as benefits and stuff. I know we had a maintenance contract for the first year, which we canceled. I'm not even sure exactly what they were supposed to do, but before we gut this, is it worth a professional opinion from a company that does this type of maintenance, if it's even cost effective to try to preserve what was started? That's my only thought on that. And obviously to make sure that the township board is aware, if we're going to remove and rototill and tear out all these plantings and steel edging, that they're aware and on board with this destruction of all this area. Comments?
So I'll make the first comment. The board has been made aware of this, of the call bearing issue 2 months ago, I believe, Bob, is that about right?
Right.
And kind of what we were thinking of. We do have Kirby coming there to work the prairie. He's, once a week to at least try to get, if stuff is thriving, and if stuff is thriving, but we're gonna rototill it, we would pull those plants out and move them forward. As far as looking for somebody to do this, this becomes we get back to a specialty problem. And that problem becomes, it's not a landscaping, because it's not an ornamental prairie or ornamental setup. It requires a skill set, and there's not many people who can do it. I will go back and get some prices. But the other thing that, and the board would have to really, the township board, at some point they assumed, and I hate using that word, assumed that the cemetery staff would be the staff to maintain this. Mark, you and I have been there. I know that Katie has taught you guys how to do thistle removal. But honestly,
we haven't been taught to remove it. We've physically gone out on our own and pulled thistle, like
Right.
after it rained, probably a month ago. But
Right, but
it comes back
Oh,
as
yeah.
fast as we pull it.
right. But I mean, she showed you what thistle was versus,
Oh, yeah,
yeah. And so the problem is, this is, one, it's a skill set. Two, this requires more man hours than we have.
correct.
I mean, it would require, I mean, it's not, it's more open space man hours, it's more cemetery man hours. It's almost, it quite honestly, for anybody who, if you guys have gone down there, it's probably a 2-person, 30-hour a week, maybe 20 hours a week job. I mean, it is getting the weeds, hence it's a weed. I mean, the weeds grow extremely fast. I mean, this is not like, oh, we're going to do it this week and then we'll come back in 6 weeks. I mean, this is if not a day-to-day, a week-to-week issue. And, like I said, I'll get some quotes, that you guys can look at. But we're going to run into the same problem that we had with the original contract, which was McGinty, and McGinty outsourced it to a regular landscaper who, one, realizing he wasn't even in the county or near us, but they had no clue what they were doing. So,
And again, the real goal here is we've got probably 2 more years, 3 more years at least before the board would even consider the thought that we'd be looking to purchase and install the second columbaria. And we really are looking, even if that came in, to simply make the area around those 2 units most attractive that it can be, and finding the right mix of ornamental plants and so forth that will work and not require as much detailed maintenance and so forth.
and when we say detailed maintenance, I mean, we're far in behind, just watering. Mark's team has stepped up. They're watering it. I mean, it is
Pros and cons of the water also, because we've got, the weeds are already overtaking most of the flowers that were.
right. So we're already losing that battle because we don't have anybody there, which I will rectify that by getting the open space staff out to do another cleanup. I mean, I don't know how else to do it.
Has that ever been discussed with the open space volunteers? I know they used to have quite a group of people. I mean, anybody interested in trying to preserve what we started, or don't even want to go?
Well, no, we don't have anybody. And during these summer months, all workdays end. Well, because of COVID, they didn't. We never had them. But workdays end at the end of May and don't start occurring again till October because of the heat. And it's just not conducive to workdays.
Okay.
It's going to have to be our staff, and I will get our staff out there next week, and they will get this cleaned up once again. But this is what we're doing, Ken and Dave, is we do these, monthly cleanups, and then it just sits there, and then we do it again, And I mean, I've gotten complaints from people who want to come there, want to sit, and it doesn't look presentable. It looks run down. Mark, would you use that word, run down or neglected?
Yeah, I guess that's a good term. I mean, yeah, because there's a lot of prairie plants that I don't even know what are plants and what are weeds, but it's not attractive. But I guess I'm thinking more of we get rid of that. At least it was something to look at, whether people like it or not. Now it's going to be wide open between. There's going to be no break for the eye until you hit that berm, which is really infested with
Right.
weeds. I don't know what is worse. Getting back to my original comment when Kirby was pointing out the new growth of something, I don't know what it was called. I don't know if that's encouraging or not. And I don't know if it would ever grow enough or spread enough to be appealing. So that's something we have to leave up to either him or a professional opinion outside of the town.
Right.
So I just want to make sure that everybody was aware of if we tear this thing out, I don't want anybody to be shocked. And again, we have to remove that steel before we can do anything if we're going to level this. And I don't believe that we are capable to tear that out and grade and rototill with just a small rototiller. I think it needs some professional equipment, which might not be that expensive. You know, somebody like Trinity or who else is in the area? Annabelle.
Yeah.
If we got a price to grade it, seed it, blanket it, I mean, we can't even consider this until probably October
Right.
for my staff, if we're going to do it. Which would be a good timing. Fall is the only time to do it. The summer is not a good time to do it to begin with. So
Okay.
grass will never grow.
All right. Well, we'll keep working on that. All right. Item B, yes, turn the floor back over to Mark. You had the request on informing the board.
Yeah, I just want the board to be aware, if they weren't, I think they are now, they printed their agenda or read their agenda. The cemetery employees, we did not get any salary adjustments this year. I wanted to say that obviously my guys were disappointed. They've gone above and beyond and still are. It has not affected any of their workmanship or effort. We've had a very, very busy year. And I just wanted you guys to know that what took place. They understand as well as I do that there are another township department that did receive raises, and obviously that upset them. But I want to let you know that has not affected them, and they're not happy, but they're working harder than we've worked in the last year with all this increase in burials and extra mowing and trimming, and to keep 2 cemeteries maintained. They've done a stand-up job.
So before I say anything, does Dave or Ken, do you want to say something or ask any questions of the township board?
No, not at this time.
Me either, thanks.
Okay, so
What was that, Dave?
Dave said no thanks.
I have no questions right now.
Okay.
Was not aware of the fact that other township employees had received an increase, but that we'll have to discuss a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
Not today.
Well, okay, so I'm just going to be in transparency. The highway commissioner, which is a separate taxing body, did give his personnel a raise. Starting in January of 2020, the Board of Trustees asked the 3 elected officials that have staff, that would be Highway Commissioner Sinet, Assessor Belak, and myself, there would not be raises. There was not money for it. We are coming into a a fiscal quadmere, and this continued on straight through until the budget was approved. Because I am in charge of the cemetery's budget, did remove all, there was originally a 2% increase in there. I did remove that 2% increase in accordance with requirements or the request of the 4 trustees. So at this point, the taxing body of the road and bridge, they did get raises. And if you attended or listened to the June 17th meeting, the board is still adamant about not giving anybody raises at this, at this time. So just letting you know that.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
All right. We'll move on to the Hammer tree donation.
I've had one of our customers would like to donate a tree. The discussion started last fall, and I failed to ask a couple of times. I don't want to just give somebody permission to plant a tree without the cemetery board being aware of it. I don't care. It doesn't matter for the big board, but cemetery board. He'd like it close to his parents' grave, and obviously we can only put it where a tree may have been removed at a prior date. And I'm going to discuss it with him. If you guys don't have any problem, or if you guys don't even want to hear about potential tree donations, if we can put them in a proper spot. But this is the first one since I've taken over as manager that I've had a request for a donation. So that's number one tree donation that are my first tree donation that the family would like to donate. You guys have any thoughts?
Just as long as you, this is Dave, just as long as you don't plant it on top of Uncle Willie,
Okay.
I mean, this is going to happen, and I mean, if we have a type of tree that we think is appropriate, maybe that'll help the people make a decision. And,
Yeah.
But you can't get.
We never got. Well, his next question, or one of his questions, was, what will we allow? So I'll have to, I don't know, maybe, tap Kirby from Open Space and see if he has any recommendations. We've got probably 3 newer maple trees in that area, where he'd like to donate one. So something, compatible with that, or something different, or another maple. It doesn't matter to me. I just, that'll be the next question.
Can I ask a question? Even if we plant a tree where a tree may or may not have existed before, do we have to be concerned with the roots as it grows upsetting grave sites?
Well, I think that most of how they all happen in the old sections, I mean, there's obviously, you could go through the cemetery. We obviously have no idea what is taking place beneath the ground and where the roots may be. I'm sure they've probably worked their way into some vaults and things like that. It has uprooted several monuments or headstones, where they're physically grown into the trunk of the tree. Where this area is, I believe is pretty open. There's the other ones were probably planted without a whole lot of thought when they were, like every bush is planted out there. They were 6 inches tall when the people put them in. Now they're 8 to 10 feet tall evergreens, which don't allow anymore. Yeah. So if it's feasible, and obviously everybody has been buried in that area, so we don't have to worry about chopping the roots out to bury someone. That would be my biggest concern with the tree donation. And depending upon, what's left of the root structure from the trees that came down, we lost my 10th year, and we probably lost eight 8 trees, 8 big trees since I've been there. And obviously some of those, the roots aren't even disintegrated yet. We couldn't even dig to plant a tree, I don't think. But this area might work. I just wanted you guys to be aware and what you would like in the future for tree donation.
All right.
Okay.
Then let's move on to why don't we handle both D and E kind of together. It sounds like they're both bench requests.
Yeah, well, the first one is a bench request. She would just like a bench, be able to put a bench on her lot. I told her the benches are not permitted, and she wanted to know why. And I, well, it's been in our rules since day one. There are no benches. Now, in the older section, there are a couple, but there's only 2 that I know of that are just, I don't know if they were meant to be monuments. There's no inscriptions on there. And in the last several years, Dave, you can attest to this. I mean, we have some memorials or monuments that are intended to be, they're benches that they can be used as a bench, and they are also intended as the headstone or memorial. What she's looking for is just a bench because she wants to be able to sit on her lot when she comes to visit. She has 2 open graves. The only thing I could suggest, if she was willing, I don't know if she ever intends to use the open graves, but if they were put in line with either the memorial row or the normal headstone row, so we can continue our mowing pattern, we just can't plop a bench in the middle of a section to make it convenient, you know, for a city lot. So
that's one of the things, Mark, that we came up with when we put our bench there. But that was part of that was too, so that you had a bench but no legs, if you know what I'm talking about. And I think Don was the one that suggested that. So, you know, that our construction, I think, works pretty good for ground maintenance, you know.
Yeah, well, and it's permanent. And the other thing, I mean, I don't know what she's looking at. I mean, if she's looking for a granite bench that would be installed permanently, and then of course, if that's the case, she would either make it something that's inscribable for the future if she decided to use those 2 graves. But
has she looked at ours?
Pardon?
Has she looked at ours, Mark?
I don't think so. This was just the other day when I was mowing, and she stopped and she said she wanted a bench, and I told her we couldn't, but I said that we were trying to schedule a meeting in the next couple of weeks. So just ironically, it just happened to fit in tonight's meeting.
Yeah.
Let me get to the second one, and then we can kind of bounce back to this. The second one, item E, well, the next one down is a bench permission. We planted a tree. My predecessor planted a tree, told us to plant a tree. No one was even thinking, or we certainly weren't, because we were told to dig a hole, that it was a grave space. And that came up when her mother passed this spring, late winter, I guess, late winter, very early spring before COVID, that there was a tree on one of her grave spaces. In the conversation to try to appease her was, number one, we could remove the tree, which she really didn't want the tree removed. And then I believe she may have come up with the idea of could they put a bench on that grave space. And they intend to, what they would like is a plaque. They want to plaque it in some way, shape, or form in remembrance of her brother, who is not buried there and will not be. And I said that I would discuss it at our next cemetery board meeting. Getting back to what I started to say initially was that our rules state no benches, no settees, nothing like that. These are kind of unique. Number one, we planted a tree on her lot, and one solution may be to allow them, if they even proceed, to give them permission for a bench that which would be approved by us. She can't just go out and buy a bench and have it installed.
No.
So until I get a design or till I tell her yay or nay to proceed, I believe she's working with Jim Warner Monuments up in Conklin, and he has not been contacted by the family yet in regards to this particular situation. So I guess just feedback from you guys. What's your thoughts?
Yeah. Personally, I like, this is prejudiced, but personally, I like what Jim Warner and Fred and Sally and I have come up with for our area.
Right.
I think that would be something that if people were interested in something like that, to incorporate those ideas. You know what I mean? I mean,
Yeah,
I
I have no problem with that as far as, for in lieu of a headstone.
right.
But in this particular case, I mean, it wouldn't be in the Garcia situation where we planted the tree. She's looking at, and I would be looking at it too. It would be parallel with the grave. It wouldn't be
Right.
set in a normal headstone spot, but we already took up her headstone spot with a maple tree.
Right.
So this would be kind of a out of the norm as far as anybody else with the bench concept for a memorial installed in the proper spot. That's a totally
Right.
different scenario. These two are looking for benches. One is our issue we created. The other one, I don't know how far that will go either. She'd just like a bench to sit on when she comes to visit. And I will just tell her that the only way we can allow it is installed in a normal centered over two graves as if somebody was going to be buried there, and if she wanted to put inscriptions on there at a future date.
That's
So this
not a bad.
this one might come back to the next meeting.
That's fine.
Okay. So I'll just bring both of them back to you guys if it's something other than what we just discussed.
Yeah.
And then yes, I would show her what we already have. Yours, number 1, Dave. And there's another one out, section 14, that is, been approved obviously by us in the past, and which is a true monument. So.
Right.
But the other one, the Garcia situation, that would not be installed in a normal headstone position because of the tree. And I don't think she's looking for a very large bench. She just wants something to commemorate her brother who's not buried there. And it would have to be approved by us anyway. And if that should become an issue that I'm not comfortable with, I'll just have to put it on the agenda for our next meeting.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right.
All right. Grave purchase issue. Sorry.
This one had a customer in probably last month, early May, called. Well, we got a call from the funeral home, and then we got a call from the family as far as which grave to open for the lady's son who passed away. I wasn't in the office the day this took place. Anthony was there, and she wanted to be next to, she purchased 3 graves. So she wanted to be next to her husband, and she wanted her son in the furthest grave, so she would be in the middle ultimately in the end. Well, so when I was back the next day, when we were going to dig the grave, we realized that the grave 2 graves away from her husband was sold to another family. So doing further research, we found out that graves on both sides have been sold to other people and not her. Her 3rd grave that she purchased turned out to be 5 graves away from her husband. How that happened, I can only guess. As an example, she's in lot 125, and the cemetery manager at the time sold her the first grave in 126, which numerically would have been, it was going the wrong direction, but had he chose grave 124, it would have been right next to it. Well, that one's been sold since 2001. She purchased her first grave in 2002, her second two graves in 2003, different dates. The only reason why I'm saying that it could possibly be a cemetery issue is because not until a year after she bought her last grave that she thought was next to her husband, that grave was open until April of 2004. And then it got sold to another family, and there's somebody buried there. I contacted the first available grave on the other side, going the other direction of her graves, to see if the family was interested in swapping those out for something else in our cemetery so we could make it right on our end. And I wrote them a letter because this was happened 19 years ago. And they responded via telephone in about 4 or 5 days, which was nice, to tell me that he is not interested in trading those graves, selling those graves. He was sorry, but him and his wife decided that's where they wanted to be in the future. So, well, we have a situation where I think her intent was to have 3 graves in a row. He ended up with not 3 in a row. And I do not see a resolution other than the fact that when this happened is I did not charge her for the grave opening for her son until we could get this resolved. So right now, all we've done to make it partially right, I guess, is we did not charge a grave opening to bury her son, but I don't know what we can do other than let her know that we're sorry, but she's going to be buried 5 graves away from her son and husband. There is one other grave available. Nothing's available. They're all sold. They've been sold for many, many years. There's a grave at the foot of her husband that is not used. It's owned by someone, but they have not, but their phone is disconnected, and I have no idea how to track these people down. And they apparently have moved too. So I'm not saying patiently waiting. She has not contacted me since the burial, but we need to respond to her. And I guess I need to know how to respond. We're sorry an error was made, or there really isn't any other option other than to hopefully find this other person that's at the foot of her husband. And if they were interested they own 2 graves, so I doubt they're interested, but they're empty. But it's out of our control to track these people down.
So just to clarify, the husband and the son are buried next to each other, and she's looking for or wanted to confirm her burial site, future burial site, is next to her husband, and that's not the case?
That's not the case. It's 5 graves away.
Okay. So we got 2 graves that are next to each other, and then hers is 5 graves away.
Correct. Yeah, it'd be would have been a little easier in person. I could show you the map so you could see it. But yes, that's the easiest way to describe it.
Can we offer her a no-cost headstone for her grave, since she's not going to be able to be engraved on her husband's headstone if that's the type of headstone that they have?
Yeah, I think I didn't really. I think there's a single. I think he just has a single marker right now. I believe her name on it. It was not like a companion marker that some people do with both the husband and the wife. I think the marker by itself. And then I don't know what her intention was with her son, if she was going to buy him a separate one, and when she passes, whoever is in charge of her estate to buy her a headstone. I don't know what her plan was for that. But other than, we don't have anything to do with the headstones. We don't sell them. We don't set them.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, it just is as a way of an appeasement, maybe. I don't know if it would work or not.
Yeah,
Because there's a cost involved with headstones, and
right.
they don't come cheap. And
Right.
Maybe it would be enough to. I mean, does she still have family in this area?
I don't know who is. I don't think there's any other children. I think this may have been. I don't know if this is her only son or not, but I'm thinking that it may be that she chose to use the grave next to her husband, but her intention was her husband on one end, her on the other, and her son in the middle. Well, she had no choice at the other to say that, bury my son next to my husband, because that was the only grave that was close. And at that point, I didn't have, obviously, with the day that we were going to dig the grave, I had no time to do research on what was available or what even happened, other than the fact that it wasn't a good scenario because someone is buried in the other grave. So it's not like we could do anything with them either.
Well, short of pulling up the two, digging up the two caskets that are there, the individuals that are buried, and relocating all of them to a triple site somewhere else in the cemetery, there really isn't any other solution available.
That is correct.
So the only solution that I can, it's not, it doesn't make them whole, but quite frankly, it's not like it doesn't sound like they're going to have people coming to the cemetery on a regular basis to remember them or place wreaths or whatever. Once she's gone, I think the sites probably will remain pretty quiet, so to speak. And so in view of the fact that it's very unfortunate that a mistake was made, but we're all human and a mistake was made.
Yeah, this is 17 years ago.
Pardon me?
17 years ago is when this took place, and it's too bad it wasn't caught. Well, it would have had to been caught within the first year, because the grave that she thought she owned was sold to someone else in 2004.
We can't turn the clock back. So
No.
I think we can offer her the option of saying, look, it's very unfortunate, but this is what it is, and here's what we would like to do as a partial compensation or whatever for for your stress that it's going to cause you now while you're alive, because it's not going to cause any stress once she passes away.
Right.
But for that, we can offer you and say, we'll pick up the cost of a headstone to match your husband's headstone and the inscription on it. And it's not like it's in a whole different area of the cemetery. She's in the immediate vicinity, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Mark, what about?
It's 20 feet apart.
What would be an idea of if when she passes away, is it important that she be buried with her husband and son, or if she were to pass away, could we do? I hate to say this, do a double switch. In other words, you're going to have to dig her grave anyway. So if we were to, if she would go for that, move her son out to that other spot and put her next to her husband. And that in that way, you'd have a double switch, but, you know,
I don't, yeah, I mean, I guess she could have, I mean, you know, under the duress of making arrangements, I suppose she could have thought about that. Well, I don't believe she still knows she's 20 feet away. We've never had a conversation since the day of the funeral, how far apart she is, just that it is not next to her and her son.
Right.
If she would have said, well, hey, let's just, you know, hold on, how far away is it? Let's put her there so she could be buried next to her husband. She never suggested that. I never suggested it. She was just adamant that, well, right now, she said she has no option other than put him next to my husband.
Well,
Right.
There's two alternatives, and at least she has a choice. It's not
Yeah,
like we can't
that's
do,
true.
that we can't do, we're not gonna do anything. Just tough luck, honey. You're gonna go where you're gonna go, and that's it. We're not saying that. We're saying, you know, here we have a couple options for you. Which option would you feel best exercising?
Okay. And then the other thing, as far as, you know, the other offer, I mean, and I don't know if there's any interest or not, is we didn't charge her any burial fee for her son. We could tell her that there will be no burial fee for you before we even suggest, you know, moving anyone. I guess we could start with a apology and here's what we can do today and see how receptive she is.
Yeah, you know, the other thing, I mean, is certainly if she were, I don't know what her thoughts are, if she is even considering cremation as an option. I mean, certainly.
Correct. That was, I mean, without asking someone, you know, have you considered cremation?
Because that would allow her to be placed between the two of them.
Yeah.
If she chose that. So I think maybe we just need to present her with as many options as we can in terms of, you know, she can wait, we can try to do the further research on that other full size that's available. We can do a move if we need to, because usually the sooner that gets accomplished, the better it is.
Yeah. I can't remember exactly which grave he is in. What makes it difficult is if you're removing between two graves, it's very difficult because you only have about a foot to work with. Whereas if it's on the end, because typically what we do is we dig the full width of our bucket when we move anybody, full width of the bucket, and then you can, you know, have some working room. If it's in between two other vaults, it makes it a little trickier. So I'm not sure exactly which, oh wait. No, he's right now, her son is buried in between her husband and the next person. So right now he's wedged in there.
Okay.
It's still possible, but let's come up with some scenarios. And I think we probably should send her a letter expressing our, you know, concern that, you know, may have taken place on our part. We have no idea because the person that did it is no longer alive. So we can't even, not that it would make any difference. We can't ask anybody what happened. Just that I think that if it's very difficult to explain our numbering system, but he probably just looked in the book and just added, thought he was right next to it, but he went the wrong direction.
Okay, let's just, run it out, I'd say, and review the options with her in a letter and see where.
Okay. All right. She's you know, hopefully healthy and nothing's imminent here as far as time goes. So let's do that.
Okay. All right.
Sounds good.
Favorite topic of the night, the Nancy Berry monument question.
Okay. You guys Bob emailed you Mrs. Berry's request with photographs. Hope you had a chance to look at it, read the letter, and open it up for discussion.
If I remember correctly, Mark, the issue here is really, normally our rules say the monument can't be over 4 feet high.
That is correct.
And this would be with the base, would be 5 feet high. Right?
That's correct.
Okay. So it's an extra foot high. Width-wise, it would meet the requirements, correct?
Yes, if I remember correctly, that was not ever an issue. I discussed our requirements with this monument company down in wherever they're at. Yeah, she's 50 inches wide, I believe, 50 or 54. She's got plenty of room over the 2 graves. As far as the width and the depth, it's the height. And the only thing that I can say is that as far as there are a couple monuments in the cemetery in the newer sections, I think there's only 2 that exceed the 48-inch height. I have no idea, again, how that happened. Doesn't make any difference. They probably just slipped through. No one paid any attention when they issued the permit to install them. And her concern was that there's shepherds that are 5 feet tall. Why can't her monument be 5 feet tall? I had it was a request, but I had a recent permit application come in on a monument that was taller than 48 inches. I think it was 54 inches, and they didn't ask for a variance. I just told them that it was too tall, so they changed the height to 48. And it's very close to the buried graves. And I don't know if the family ever, if you grant the variance, the family would ever look over there and say, how come that one's 5 feet and you made me do 4 feet? I don't have that answer. It wasn't a request. Mrs. Berry is a request to go taller than our requirement. So that's where we're at.
So the monument company can't, personally, I like the design of the one with the 2 columns that are this apparently the same width. I like the balance of that design, monument design, better than the other one where the one column is wider.
Yeah, that's the 48-inch tall one.
Is there a reason that they cannot compress the writing on the dates and the names, dropping them a little lower on the monument, dropping the glass, whatever that you want to call that, the glass thing down? I know that it probably changes the aesthetics of, could change the aesthetics of the cross somewhat. But if they drop things down and compress things together a little bit, I would think you'd be able to put it together in a 4 foot high monument, and it would still look, it's a pretty dramatic looking monument,
right?
But frankly,
yeah.
It's very elegant, and I would think that they would be able to, I don't know, I can't tell by the scale of the drawing or anything, but it sure seems to me that you could drop the names and the dates, down 6 inches or more, close up the space between the name and the date of the dates below each name, compress that a little bit, compress the space between the glass oblique or whatever you want to call it, and then drop the saying at the top, the passage at the top,
right.
Drop that down, you're talking 6 inches, right?
Well, we're talking 12 inches total.
12 inches total, but you're talking
Yeah.
6 inches at the bottom and 6 inches at the top.
Yes. I think that, yeah, I think.
On that, you could split it up however you want to split it up. Take a ruler, and start drawing lines, and split it up.
Yeah, I mean,
I think
even if you just drop
lose the aesthetic balance, I don't think, if you did it properly. You
Yeah,
might
I-
even improve the look of the cross aesthetically. It wouldn't have quite such a long stem on the bottom of it.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit out of
Cross a
proportion as far as the width and the height. I think you're absolutely right, but I guess we're not designers, but they didn't. I would think that this is all done on a computer. I think they could probably take that and, I mean, as an option, as our recommendation, and see how it goes. Otherwise,
I think we're stepping into onto thin ice with variances with the monument heights, and we had this discussion, if I'm not mistaken, we had this discussion in the past. And
Right.
start varying it now. I don't know what happened with the other ones, but that is what it is, and we can't change that. But going forward, it's putting you in an awkward position to say to somebody, well, we can't allow, well, they did it. And
Right. Yeah, making it wrong doesn't make it right. I mean, the one or two that we have that flip through, it's no different than this lot sale. It was nothing intentional. I don't think when it got approved, there was no favoritism given to the last person that has the 5-foot tall monument. It just happened, or it just happened, I believe.
Well, I know she's been a resident for 51 years and all that, and I understand that, but I don't think that it diminishes the significance of the monument by shaving 6 inches off the bottom and 6 inches off the top, and doing a proportional spacing of the stone and the passage and the names and the dates in the space that's left. I don't think that diminishes the impact of the monument at all. I think the highest impact is that big blue stone, sitting there, and we're not saying you can't have that. And so I don't know. That would be my suggestion, to say, well, can you adjust the height?
Okay.
Yeah, and
Right.
So I guess the answer is no on the variance. Our recommendation or suggestion is to get a drawing of everything moved down and
Yeah.
maintain our 48-inch height requirement. Is that what you're saying?
one of those things I would add that I think, like, if they can get it down to within a 1 or a 2 inch difference, that's probably something we could buy into if it comes back and says, we can't really go below a total of 50 inches and make those work.
Yeah.
1 or 2 inch variance isn't going to be anywhere near.
Foot is quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you go a foot, why can't you go 2 feet?
Yeah. But a 1 or 2
Right.
inch
Where do you
difference-
stop it then? Why even have the rule at all?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. I will give her a phone call and tell her where we're at.
All righty. Okay, local monument encroachment.
Okay, this one, I'll try to speed this up. This is, lady bought 6 graves in section 17. She buried her mother in almost the middle. Well, grave 4, let's say. When I got the drawing for the permit application, it was specifically on there that the headstone was to be placed over 2 graves. Then I got a call from when the guy came to dig the foundation, he didn't have which grave numbers, which two they went over, and I didn't have any idea. So I called the family and asked them which two graves they wanted to use. Well, she didn't really want to use two graves. She only wanted to use one. I told her monument was bigger than the grave. She said she didn't know that. So then she couldn't understand why she had to put them over the center, why she can't just use two graves. I said, well, because it offsets the rest of the stones, and all of our requirements and our rules state that any monument be in the center of the grave or graves used. So she went back to the family. I don't know what the intent is of the other 5 remaining graves. And she wants this stone. The stone was designed just for her mother, and it was always the intention, apparently, just for her mother and not 2 people, or in this particular case, what she's trying to do, 3 people. So I told her that she had to put it over the center. She came back and said that if that's the case, she would have to use 3 graves. Well, then I told her, if you do that, you cannot add a stone, even a small stone, for the other 2 graves. And she didn't, I mean, she wasn't happy with that either. But I guess my recommendation is that if it's her choice to center this over the 3 graves, that we should require something in writing that she can use those other 2 graves, but she will never be allowed to place a marker, like at the foot, as an example, at the foot of those. There's not enough room at the head where they normally be. But if that's her choice, I just want something in our protection that they can be used for burial, but they can never be memorialized with a marker. And again, it would be a lot easier to show you on paper, but that's not going to happen tonight.
Yes, I mean, basically, it would be a written deal that she couldn't add to this, but at some point in the future, if, say, the other 2 individuals were buried, the family could remove this stone and recenter a new one over the 3 graves with the 3 individual names.
Oh yeah, this is a big monument though. This is like 60 some inches wide. The graves are only 42 inches. She's going to encroach 7 inches onto grave number, let's say grave number 3 and grave number 5. It's
Right.
going to be in the center of 4, and it's going to encroach on the other 2. Only being 42-inch graves, that only leaves 35 inches for a headstone. Well, headstones are 32 inches. Now,
Right.
if we centered, you can't even slide them over to touch the other stone, they'd still be out of the center of the remaining 2 graves on the ends. It
Right.
would just be a mess in the end, that we'd have all these stones that are not lined up with the neighbor.
I know, but what I'm saying is, at some point in the future, they could remove this stone and put a new one in.
Correct. But this is, like I said, this is 5 feet. This is.
Well, no, but that's their money if
Yeah.
they wanted to do it.
Oh yeah, they can always remove the stone. But I just want to make sure they're very clear that they cannot,
Yeah.
at a later date, when I'm gone and the next 2 managers are gone, and 20 years from now somebody comes and says that they want to put a marker in there. I guess we'll all be fun, but it doesn't make a difference.
Mark,
Just that,
would you like to type up a proposal in that language and say, if you want to sign it and proceed?
or I guess what my question is, do we want something in writing, or just let the installer know that that stone could be centered over to 3 graves, and just we can make a notation in the book. I can explain to her, you can never add a 2nd or 3rd monument to those graves, period.
Not even a ground flush monument, but a small.
Not even a flush marker, because especially in that section, the new section, there's 1 stone per grave. That technically is the rule for the old sections, but we have a military situation where people can have a headstone and they can have a military marker at their foot. That is the only exception to a marker at the foot of a grave in section 17. And we haven't had any veterans because of probably the age of the new section, and most of the veterans are gone that are even qualified today. Not that it wouldn't happen in the future.
Hey, Mark, my suggestion, because you're probably right, this could be 2 to 3 managers down the road. She's got to sign off on this.
Okay.
Oh, I mean, it is the only way to avoid any future, issues. None of us will be here, in theory. I think it's better because we have seen how you have been put in predicaments because of past dealings or past issues with other managers, or what other managers have done, and now they put you in bad positions. Let's do it right. Let's get it in writing. Let's document it.
And what I would say,
That's-
what I'd suggest in that is we'll go to our counsel, Kurt, and he's works a lot in the cemetery field and the regulations, and have him draft up a document for her to
Okay.
and sign.
All right. That's fine.
I'm in agreement with that. I think that's a good suggestion.
Totally, yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Decoration issues, our favorite.
That is very quickly after Father's Day on Monday. We did a massive cleanup in section 17. We're starting there. We're not ending in 17, but there was a lot of new structures installed over the weekend. We had it's almost the size of a baker's rack. It's like they had plants hanging on it. It's about 6 feet tall, 1 foot deep, 3.5 feet wide, stuck in the ground, which we removed immediately because, number one, it's not allowed. Specifically, it's not in a list of items not permitted. It was just obviously too large for a cemetery, because once people see this, it just catches on and it just grows. So we had a mass cleanup except for Father's Day items. We've had a couple concerns from people, which they've all hopefully understood. They accepted fairly well. We did not throw anything away, never do throw anything away other than dead flowers. And just in one day, from Monday's cleanup to Tuesday, some people have replaced some items that they didn't even know we had the other ones. This is an ongoing, never-ending problem that I've been dealing with, especially in section 17, trying to maintain the 2 decoration rule. And I continue to go over to 14 next week. Anthony's on vacation this week, so we're short 1 guy, plus we've had 5 burials. So we need to continue and see how far I can make this run last.
Okay.
Okay.
Just FYI, a couple people were going to supposedly contact the office, but I think they may have all be settled down by now.
All right. Anything under reports where you would have a separate report?
No, I guess I already did it.
All right. Anybody else have any other business? Otherwise, I guess we can wrap this up.
Is our next meeting's October, right?
We'll tentatively keep it in October, but if Mark comes up with a couple of significant issues or whatever, we may have to call another special meeting in the interim.
That sounds okay.
Yeah.
Go
Most
ahead,
of the
Ken, I'm sorry.
go ahead.
You. It goes to you, Ken.
Oh,
It was tentatively scheduled for the 6th of October, correct? The next one.
Correct.
Well,
Correct.
originally.
Right.
Okay.
Do you
I would make that our definite meeting, and then, like I say, if maybe July is too quick with the 4th of July holiday in there, but I'm hopefully going to have some rebuttal or response to some of these bench issues and the variance in case we need something. Are you guys willing and able to do this again?
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
whatever it takes.
Okay. We'll try to stick to the second Tuesday in July, what is that, Bob?
Well, that'd be the 14th. That's a matter of like 2 weeks.
Oh, okay.
So we might
That might be quick. Maybe we'll just have to do either August, which won't solve the berry issue because she was shooting for an August installation. But let's just play it by ear. If we have to have a special 48 hours just to finalize something, we'll give it a shot. If you guys aren't available, then we'll have to postpone it.
Okay.
I have a question for the board. Is there anything that you specifically want me to take back to the Board of Trustees?
I can't think of anything.
I have nothing.
Okay, thank you.
All right. If we're at that point, then I take a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved. Ken?
Second, Dave?
Okay. Roll call. Trustee Gullickson,
Aye.
Trustee Bartelt,
All right.
meeting adjourned. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank
All
you.
right. With that,
All
I
right.
am going to stop the recording, and thank you very much, everyone.
You're welcome.
Have a
Good
good
night.
night.
Have a good evening.
Bye. Bye.